today's session. I'm Andrea, and I'll be co-hosting today's session. We'll be covering Azure Breach simulation and real-world escalation. As you know, running and maintaining an Azure environment can be challenging, especially when it comes to security. Today, we'll walk through some common real-world security scenarios and how to handle them. Nandy, our Azure security expert, deals with these types of incidents on a regular basis and will help break down these concepts. He'll also guide us through the hands-on labs towards the end. We highly encouraging asking any questions that you may have either through the LinkedIn messages or in the private chat. So with that, I'll hand it over to Nandy to kick things off.
Fantastic, Andrea. Nice to get these things moving, and thank you for everybody to join this call. Basically, on this presentations or including lab, the idea is how we can simulate the real world security breach around the identity, and how we can mitigate that, look at that, how that in progress, this actual breach happening, and in a real world situation, how to make sure this kind of event doesn't happen, right? And also I will share with you some of those stuff related to like in real world, the attack already happened in the past and what we can learn from it. So we'll cover a bunch of different scenarios, and hopefully it will be informative one. So let's get into it. So first of all, what we're going to cover, we're going to cover your how to identify the compromise. So as the situations with the identity happening, the different kind of we have a service account, we got a different kind of identity, and the different kind of managed identity, normal users, privileged users, and all of those stuff. You have that's part of identity, and there's a better different kind of resources it's get used, and those resources has different kind of privileges. So the whole idea is how we can actually see those identity, and if that compromise, what we'll do. So what attacker do after gaining access. So in this in this training, we're also going to touch base upon as these attackers actually getting access. So what is the possibilities out there? Obviously, we're going to touch base some, but the various kind of possibilities are out there for sure, and we're going to look at some of the stuff together, and hopefully it's going to be a helpful one. And we're going to take a look at that, like, and how we can use the sign-in logs and the KQL to look at that, like, and is there any kind of activity happening around, and we wanted to make sure okay, like, these activities are like, really like, how as a system administrator can catch some of those indications and put some real world remediations. So on another use case, like we can see the storm 0558. It's actually damaged. If I'm not wrong, it's around, like, 25 plus organizations got impacted by that. It's a very popular one, and it's definitely, like, had a and also U.S. government. Some of those businesses. So it's definitely had a high impact on it, and see like, this is definitely identity compromise and real issues. So let's also, we're going to again, like, as we touch base out, like, we're going to identify the actual attacker. Then we're going to take a look at that, like, and how that whole lateral movement happening from the normal account to legitimate account, using legitimate account. And it's basically like, when the attacker happened, they're not going to use any kind of like any kind of most of this time the privilege account already had the MFA or whatnot, but the normal account it doesn't. Some of the organizations you've been worked on, you will find those organizations they are using MFA for external users, but for the internal users they are not using. They are actually putting some kind of geofencing, and for a various reason, some of the organizations don't want to use for office bound users don't want to use MFA. So the collateral movement happened from there because obviously that's only need like active token, and then they can actually attack that stuff. So we're going to learn about all of that technique. We're going to learn about some defense strategies to make sure those mitigations are in place, if, perhaps before the actual attack happened. So typically what happened, the breach begins from from the identify those, like either somebody have your credentials, pretty we have this pretty normal scenario where you'll find users, a lot of office bound users have their sticky tape on the top of the screen. We have seen it all, and the normal a predictable password. So that's why Microsoft Azure actually offer bad passwords. I don't think so. A lot of organizations apply that, and also complex password, bad password, most common kind of use password. So those are all access using the valid credential. Those weak password, they still password, and token silent captures. We're going to demonstrate today about that. Is basically every time you have a access authentications, user authenticate, that token get released, and then if you can hijack that token, you will have a similar a similar kind of a privilege what that user had. So if that somehow token gets stolen, you will have similar kind of privileges, and you can actually go lateral movement with that. And no MFA triggered, obviously when in some scenario when you actually don't have a conditional access policy in place, and if you actually token captured, in most of the situation they are already active tokens, so the name of MFA prompt won't even come. So this is very important to understand. Hijacking token is a very I have done at least 4 or 5 of them similar kind of forensic last 3 months alone, where is the token got captured, and then the collateral the lateral movement started happen, and they under the hood they started creating multiple different identities, and they're doing different things with those identities. So it's all breach started happening from there. Jian, go ahead.
Question. Yes, and Gian, I believe, has a question for you. So over to you, Gian.
Just give me a sec.
Given the risk of identity theft and password, credential stuffing and everything, so I got probably kind of a two-part question. The first is, what are some attack vectors that could lead to a hijacked token? Is it predominantly phishing, social engineering, or are there other sophisticated attack vectors that could lead to that? And then the second part of the question is, are there ways to mitigate that initial attack?
Yeah, this is great. You actually bring up that topic, and when we're talking about the different kind of attack vectors, that's come from the various different directions. So I tell customers, don't just mitigate with your email workload, that's your exchange. You need to basically you need to harden that environment, put a best practice for Azure AD, your tenant, your exchange, your SharePoint, your Teams, your device identity, all of that stuff need to get mitigated. So in a normal scenario, normal users that can be phishing, like user got some sort of a Christmas gift card or something like that with the underneath a hyperlink, and when you click on the hyperlink, that gets out the fish out identity sort of a situation. That's a very common. And then users are start, like I said, the brute force attack. Like kind of continuously, like they say, other brute force continuous attack happening within our Azure tenant. This is another kind of approach. And we all know people, like when you actually have the sales guys running around and they love their USB, even like now, like they love their USB drive, so they plug that thing in. And when you actually plugging in the random public space and the plugging that thing on your desktop, and bingo, like then you actually can offload a workload from those device, from those like in a public space to internal place. So the idea is, that's why Microsoft put zero trust in place. So we don't trust anything, everything. And then the idea is we wanted to go with the least privilege to highest privilege. So what does that mean? All the devices need to be managed. But let's say if you actually have managed by Intune, let's manage everything. All the identity need to manage. What does that mean? All the identity need to be least privilege approach, and they always need to use PIM, and there will be always that software firewall. We always talk about the conditional access policy. All the data need to be managed. What does that mean? We need to put a DLP, that data loss protections, and the encryption is in place. All of that stuff, like with the applications, also need to be managed with the cloud apps protections and stuff like that. So the idea is we need to manage or protect all of those workload to make sure there is no leakage. And the great way of doing things is zero trust. And also, if you wanted to, customer wanted to follow a global standard, that is a CIS benchmark. That's a level 2. I always want them to follow the CIS benchmark. It's not only the Microsoft, it's also pretty much like globally recognized. If you have an Amazon environment, Microsoft environment, CIS benchmark, those controls apply to all. So this is, hopefully that's answer your question.
It does. Thank you.
Fantastic. This is basically like your stolen credential standpoint. And then once the stolen credential happen, then attacker will leverage your existing identities. So let's say if you already have an automation account, if you have any managed account and stuff like that, attacker basically going to try that, how they're going to control those existing account. So, or like let's say if they actually have the VM, so how they can actually use the VM, and if the VM already part of have access to the different managed workload, how they can actually use those to go on to the other workload. So reassign. So let's say if you actually have some of those automations accounts, some of those managed service accounts, if they manage to get the control, guess what? Those managed identity have access to the other identities immediately. They will have access to the workload, or if they can get additional resources. So if you actually have a different, if you have a development subscriptions with a different development research group, once they have access, if you already have a privilege, how difficult for that attacker get access to from the development subscription to the production subscription. So all lateral movement starts happening, and they will plan that action accordingly, and then do those further damages. So it's it's a movement. Then like when typically what happened, they will if they have an existing identity or not, they will create an automation account. If they have an existing identity or privilege access, so from the automation account, basically they could run bunch of script, gather logs, clear those logs, change that logs and different secrets within those areas, so they can actually just once they have put the system in place, this thing can go run by itself, right? So, and they can a lot of scenarios people don't understand, those identities which they create as a lateral movement, they stays within the environment. When even your SOC team find the initial attacker, that doesn't mean they get rid of the whole whole group of those attackers within the environment, because like they will have some of those automation in place, and those are the things they can schedule, they can do different kind of approach, so they will have all the information what they needed to continue their journey within the environment. Then they goes to detections and response. So once you actually know there is a attack happen, you can see there is a joining dots, you can see the elevation permissions, you can see how you can make sure those how you can actually detect those first and then remediate. So there is Microsoft offers different tools to like the go about it. So your Microsoft sign-in logs there, and you have the KQL KQL query you can do to take a look at that work, or take a look at the recent audit logs and something what you need to happen, and then you can revoke those sessions, isolate those activities, something along that line. So let's say if you have a spatial, like a device which is got exposed, you can revoke the sessions in terms of the identity protection, and also you isolate the device to make sure like that device can't do further damage. So these are all of that good practices are in place. If you actually have also into on the top of the Sentinel, those are the stuff, like a Sentinel offers reactive, proactive, lot of automation playbook approach. So this is the real world. Some of those people, some of you already know. It's basically like it is a China-based threat actor, it is obviously like a name by Microsoft, Storm 0558. It's happened like it's highly sophisticated on Microsoft Cloud Services. It's happened around mid 2023-ish, around that June, July, and they stole a Microsoft consumer sign-in key and forged a bunch of authentication tokens and access to all the Microsoft O365 email clients, and it's including US government one, and that definitely did a decent damage. It has like a compromised O365 account across US government various agencies, senior officials. I mean, and it stays undetected for weeks, and showing gaps on the cloud validation, those token validation monitoring, and around it's end up like around like a 25 plus organizations was like in a part of that situation. Go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know we're getting a little bit of static. Can we test if it's just on your mic? Is everybody hearing static from me? I think Gian said, and Nate said he can hear me just fine.
So it's a static coming from mine?
Oh, it's gotten much better now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, no worries. Fantastic. So if you guys have some questions, please go ahead. I'm going to go into the lab as the next part. All right, so let me dive into the lab first. So we'll touch base upon first how we're going to access those. If we really just let me prepare lab first.
I'm just letting you know we're getting intermittent static. Yeah, it seems to be going in and out, just for your situational awareness.
I think like I need to log into from desktop, I think. It's most probably that's why. You still getting the static?
Right then we did. So I don't know if you have a way to change the mic input to a different mic.
Just give me a second.
Sure thing.
What about now? Is better?
It seems
No?
better, yes.
Okay, okay.
Better.
Hopefully it's not gonna
Thank
come back
you.
again. All right. All right, so in terms of lab, okay, so from the you can actually log into the PowerShell console from a couple of different way. You can access from the if the attacker wanted to log in, they can actually log in from the Cloud Shell, or you can the good news with the Cloud Shell, you actually let you in straight away because you already logged in, so it's already using the current token and you logged you in there. And with the PowerShell, you still need to connect there. So let's say like with the PowerShell, I'm using PowerShell 7. So it will come up. So let me log in. So you need to log in there with the PowerShell. So if someone trying to log into the, let's say you logged in, you have the if you're already
Get the static again.
setting in.
Yes.
All right.
If we could switch your mic.
Let me see if I can actually.
Awesome.
What about now?
Oh, yes. I think that's much better.
Is that got it better?
It is, but I'm hearing my
Against static?
Or,
You're hearing a loop back?
yeah, loop back. Exactly.
Let's continue this. I hope the next one we're going to figure out what's happening. I'm going to put it there. Maybe we want to change the browser. All right. So at start with, we've done that. Like you can actually log in with the Azure credential, and then if you wanted to, so you can, if you want to see the current token, so there is a command you can play. You can run from as you logged in. So this is the command you can actually take. You can see that from the active, that's one of the GRAPI API address. So once you log in, you can see my token available there. So what I can do, I can utilize this token, and I will be able to access the session using the same token. So let me try that. Yeah, I'm building that command. Just give me a second. So if you can see that from that token, if I just run that command, just give me a second. So look at this. This is token is valid. I just need to invoke that. Just give me a second. So it's those most probably token already used. That's why. So I need to get another token. Just give me a second. Just give me a second.
Sure thing, Mandy. In the meantime, I'm going to be posting in the chat here some information around Storm 0558, where the folks here can find the official blog on.
Exactly.
So, looks like you're good to go.
Let me pick up that token again. I'm still building the command. On the client ID. Third time lucky, I guess. Yeah, just give me a second.
And as you're building that out, I just thought a little bit of commentary with the Storm 0558. Oh, are we good to go?
Yeah, we're going to let's continue that stuff, but because it's just most probably like the PowerShell was most probably that like I was playing with that stuff, most probably the broken something. Let me go through some other comments right now. So
Okay.
once just as we actually able to get into um, uh, the, get that stolen identity situation there, then we can then I can actually then I can the able to like look at all the what is this other assigned identities there. I will be able to list all the all list all the VMs, all the resources. So it's basically like once you actually got the identity, then you can take a look at that. Like you basically do a all kind of collateral movement, a lateral movement you can actually do. So here, Azure AZ VM there, so you can we can do the like the Azure Key Vault. Or if there is any Azure Key Vault there, we can take a look at that. In this case, there is a Azure Key Vault. We can check. So if Azure there is a other resources there, so we can take a look at that the Azure resources. So it shows down that like look at that here. All of those resources related, like you can see that like you got a key vault, you have a neat app, web application, so you can actually see different kind of workload lives in there. So that's the best way to identify like it's what actually there on those so it's attackers actually doing that discovery, right, as they're going through that. So from that, let's say if we or in the past I already looked at it, what is that if there is any VM. So if I wanted to give let's say attacker wanted to give themselves access to this one of those Azure VM, so it's going to be like fairly easy there. So all they need to do, they need to give themselves a contributor rights to the assign that contributor rights to that well, first of all, get users to the VM. Let's run this command there. Just give me a second. The first, they need to get into that. and they need to, once they get it there.
And we have a question when you get a good pause time.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. If you wanted to ask question, go ahead.
Perfect. It's from Nate Evans. He asks, and that information is only available in PowerShell, right? Or is it also reflected in the GUI somewhere?
Yeah,
I think when you were speaking,
yeah, I mean, like an
VMs.
definitely information's available on the information available, not only the PowerShell, also the same informations you can get like in a form, because like if you're looking at the automation account, you will see the same automation account, same kind of what's happening with the uh, uh, environment from your from the grid. Yeah, I mean, like the PowerShell is just a PowerShell, Cloud Shell. You have a different way of like accessing the same resources. Pretty much like when we're going to when the attacker is going to do their things, they will have all the different directions to really like getting into the tenant. Yeah. All right. Exactly. So any more questions?
None that I see, but we'll let you know.
Thank you. All right, let me go and do that. Come on there. All right. So now with this command, what I'm doing, I'm actually just going into one of those VMs. I'm actually giving myself like giving this who actually took the token a contributor rights. So this is basically what is happening, and it typically it takes some time, and you will see like this user got to yourself like it's so now you see this is basically now I able to assign this access to that VM. So now like now you can see the identity. Let's say if someone actually managed to stole the token, and then they're able to get themselves access to the VM, and this is how the lateral movement happening, right? So the first so now if that VM actually got any kind of like an access to the managed identity, then what's going to happen? They won't be able to do further damage. So so let's say they like they can use the managed identity to create a automation account. So let's say if I wanted to create a automation account as I got access, so I will be able to create this automation account. So from there, you can, if you see, go to see from the web portal. It just takes a little bit time, but like you can see that like an automation account is got created. So once you actually start having access and having access to those managed identity, you should be able to create those other account which to further damage the environment, right? So this is basically one of those examples. So if you from like let's say like I think Nat asked for if we actually have a can you do that from the web access? So let's see if I actually have a web access alongside with the PowerShell, I'll be able to create a first automation account and give myself authority from that. So it's I can get a like an identity and manage identity, I can use this account to do other stuff. So let's say in this case, I picked up the identity and I wanted to give contributor access to the subscription. So now I use the automation account, and then I give myself a further further rights. So so let me build up that command there. Further question? Not yet. Okay. So here I created that, I picked up that identity, and I was able to basically do the contributor access using the same identity. I gave that automation account a contributor role of that subscription. So what does that mean? Now that automation account can do further damage. I don't need to use my account anymore. So these are the further sort of situations can be done. We can do other stuff with it, we can actually do a backdoor key and all kind of stuff with that stuff. So so what we can actually do, so how we can so now let's getting into what we can actually do. Once you breach already happened, you can see some of the stuff already done. So what we can do, we can actually take a look at that environment sign-in logs. So let's say if you actually can see, in this case, we have sign-in logs in your environment. You can go to the Azure, take a look at the sign-in logs there. And also we can actually go to the log analytic workspace and run a bunch of SQL queries. Will basically, in this case, we have log analytic workspace here. Typically, you just go there and click on that SQL mode, and let's say if you wanted to take a look at that, what audit from the audit log, who actually elevated the roles and stuff like that last few days, you would be able to find that role. So let's say if I found that with a log into workspace, okay, there is a user called Alex got elevated permissions. So from that, if we find that from the audit log, okay, there is a user who got a low elevated permissions, and that doesn't sound right to us. What are we going to do? We're going to go to that user, Alex, from the, if we wanted to go to the GUID, we can revoke that permission, revoke that session token from there, and obviously take the MFA out and reset the password, and we can do that same from the PowerShell. So it will be as simple as that. We just put the user's object ID, that's your object ID there, and collect that and just revoke the permission. So you see and from there you can also disable the user account, something along that line. So this is a very kind of typical way to just to make sure all of those basic stuff taken care of, remediation, revoke, and then the other areas.
I was just going to add on that, in great overview, especially with that demo, and then going into the Mercury logs, doing the audit, KQL query. And once you have clarity with that, you can mention this earlier, go into Sentinel and write a rule, so that way an alert will go off, a customized rule that will alert your of the bad activity that would be going on in the environment.
Absolutely. The whole idea is as you go into this kind of first of all, that you will go into the such events like that, where you see the attackers are coming, it's a very important to analyze like sign-in logs, not only those days, and you need to look at past, so past 1 month or like with the 1 month or almost like a last 3 months log. So if you can actually see any kind of collateral, any kind of lateral movement happening during those phase, and you will see is that any kind of like other account getting created, is that any kind of audit. That's what the audit logs and sign-in logs is very important. So as you're going to see the other accounts getting created, you wanted to keep everybody accountable, those privileged accounts and stuff like that. That's why Microsoft provides privileged identity management. So you wanted to use those facility to make sure like nobody goes to, I tell them nobody goes to bed with a privileged account. So idea is every 8 hours, those privileged accounts goes away. Then you put a just in time, you add a justification. Some cases managers need to approve those identities. But yes, this goes without saying that, the basic hygiene related to the privilege account, basic hygiene related to the, like a MFA and a different kind of MFA. I have seen organizations use email as a MFA. That's not a best idea at all. Like email MFA, and in some cases SMS MFA. I mean, the great approach is just use the MFA in terms of like Microsoft Authentication app. That's a best practice. Then go for a FIDO, so like as a hardware key. And then you can also use Windows Hello. They are pretty secure. But with the email MFA, just imagine if your email got exposed, somebody actually have access to the MFA. If you click on the phishing attacks and stuff like that, that's itself means like somebody have access to your multiple email accounts and stuff like that. How difficult for them to reset the password if you have a failed self-serve password reset. So this is very important.
And on that point, I mean, that's exactly Storm 0558. They had access to Outlook and OA and were the adversaries, I should say, were able to read emails that they shouldn't have had privileges to be able to read. So that's a very good point. We do have Evans. He asked, will it support token-based and like RSA, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, like it's yes. I mean, with a bit of a caveat there also, because like a Microsoft doesn't support third-party token-based like an RSA out of the box, but you can integrate
We're
them like
static, just so you know, breaking up. Sorry.
Okay, so we had a bit of static, right? Is that better?
It sounds like it's getting better. Yes.
Okay, so there is a bit of caveat there, Nate. I mean, like Microsoft, when you're talking about the third party, like RSA out of the box, but you can integrate them. So Microsoft offers like the Azure AD plus the external
Corrupt, but
identity before. It's still getting static.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, I need to figure that out static for the next one. Let's put up with this one. So yeah, Nate, it does support that. You can configure that like a custom MFA. You can actually voice it out, Nate, if you like. But yeah, it does support. And also similar like an ADFS. It's also offers
any
ADFS.
additional.
Go ahead.
Nate, in case you would like to voice it out, you're now allowed to. He did say thank you though, in the chat. Oh, here he is.
Yep,
Thank you.
I'm good. Thanks. I appreciate the answer there. I was just curious about how kind of some of the token-based, kind of the non-traditional Microsoft, realms would sort of fit in there. So it's good to hear that that's supported, and you could still feed that data into Sentinel and get automated alerts and elements like that.
You can, and the great that you bring up those points. I mean, like, and if you actually have RSA, you have Octas and all kind of stuff. Microsoft offers that stuff, and we don't want to forget the ADFS, right? Like, and we don't like, don't remember ADFS. Everybody wanted to forget ADFS though, but like, we can't, because like, it says if you have on-prem and if you have multiple applications, they all need to be secure ADFS there. So Microsoft does support, like, the ADFS. You can configure the RSA with the hardware or OTP, like all the smart cards, OTP token, and all the other stuff. You're going to make your network environment a little bit complex. It's so much fun to manage that, but it does support.
Yep, thanks. Yeah, it's always easier when you stay within the Microsoft environment, but a lot of the organizations that I've seen have, some of those oddities brought in there too, and so it's nice to see it.
Yeah, I mean, like,
thank you.
I mean, like, we all like a cloud managed totally O365 stuff, but it's not practical. Like, you'll find if the organization go bigger, like a certain kind of thing, it's always startups. I feel like they have like a 10 or under 20. They manage to keep them on a cloud, but once they go beyond, they have more complexities and stuff like that. They either need to bring a different cloud environment, or they will have the on-prem. And as the merger starts happening, those funds starts coming. Like, you cannot actually ignore that. That's what this important part is. As the on-prem environment and different cloud stuff is coming, we also need to make sure we have a proper identity management part in place to, like, we are taking that one very seriously, because identity, that's where all of those kind of situations, security related situations starts coming. So I think like that's all for today, Andrea. I think that if we have further questions, we can definitely add some flavor to that.
I don't see any in the chat. I think you've answered everything. Thank you.
Okay.
And
I
guess
question from the LinkedIn itself.
I pulled it up. I don't see any from the LinkedIn side.
Excellent. So that's about it for today.
Perfect. I'll do our closeout real quickly. Thank you, everyone, for the session. We hope you enjoyed it on Azure Breach simulation and real-world escalation. You can expect this recording from today and all previous recordings available to you through Mandy's communication channels with you. We look forward to seeing you again at our future security sessions with Mandy. Thank you all.